Good morning, my dear students. Welcome in Strength of Materials. So, you know very well, we are in a mechanical properties and elastic constants of metals. So, which is chapter number 3. So, in last video, we saw some mechanical properties, and also we saw what is the main motto behind to learn that mechanical properties. Okay. So, in last video, we saw our three mechanical properties. First is what? Elasticity, strength, and plasticity. Okay, so now today we're going to switch on our next mechanical property, which is malleability. Okay, so my dear students, as per as our machine design is concerned, as per as our selection of material is concerned, as per as our design of elements is concerned, mechanical properties are very important. So see, my dear students, our next property is which is what? Malleability. So malleability means what? Some material has got malleable property. Okay, so what is malleability? Malleability means nothing but, my dear students, ability. Again, it's a ability of material, ability of material to drawn into a thin sheets. Okay, so this is what malleability. The material which has got ability to drawn into a thin sheets. This is what malleability. Are you getting? It means it is the ability of material which can drawn into a thin sheets. Which can drawn into a thin sheets. Supposed to be assume these are the what? Rollers. Okay. Rollers. And supposed to be assume here I have what? Material. This is malleable material. Supposed to be assume this is what? Malleable material. And supposed to be assume this roller is going to rotate with the help of, here I am suppose motor is there. Okay, so due to this motor, this roller is going to rotate. Again, this roller also going to rotate. So due to rotation of this roller, something is happen. See, supposed to be assume this is what? Malleable material. Once you are putting this malleable material in between this roller, so see what happened due to rotation of this roller. Yes, it goes into this what? In between gap of this roller and come out in this fashion. And this is called as what? Thin sheets. Okay, so this malleable material having ability to come out from that roller in the form of thin sheets without cracking. Without failure, this malleable material get into what? Thin sheets. By using which process? Compressing process, roller compression process, rolling process. So under rolling process, okay, this malleable material, comes with thin sheet without failure, without cracking. So this phenomenon is called as what? Malleability. So we got thin sheets from that malleable material by compression process. By thin sheets by compression process under the compression action. So under the compression action, that material having ability to draw into a thin sheet, that phenomenon is called as malleability. Okay, so that material comes into what? Thin sheet by rolling process, by compression process. So that phenomenon is called as what? Malleability, but without cracking. We don't have crack on that what? Sheet after drawing from compression process, from rolling process. So such a material, those having capacity, those having ability to accommodate in what? Thin sheet, to get in what? Thin sheet by rolling process, by compression process. So by compression process we'll getting thin sheet of a material. That material is called as what? Malleable material. Okay, so now our next mechanical property, which is, my dear students, ductility. So see, This is also important property, ductility. So what is ductility, my dear students? Yes, so again this ductility is nothing but ability. So see, my dear students, what is ductility? Ductility is nothing but again ability of a material. Ability of a material, but here to drawn into wires. Here, my dear students, ability of material to drawn into sheets. That material is called as what? Malleable material. But here in ductility, so whatever the material have with us, that material comes into what? Wire. That phenomenon is called as what? Ductility. So those material having ability to drawn into wires, that material is called as what? Ductile material. Ductile phenomena of a material. Okay. So ability of material which can be drawn into a thin wires, that phenomenon is called as what? Ductility. So how it come, my dear students? Supposed to be assume this is what? One die. You know very well die. That die having small hole, supposed to be assumed that die having what? 10 mm hole. And supposed to be assumed here having what? Material. This is what? Material. Which material? Ductile material. Which material? Ductile material. Okay. So this ductile material, once you have to pull it, this material you have to pull it by any means from through this hole. You have to pull this material. You have to pull this material through this hole. So you will getting thin wires. By pulling action. Under pulling action, material comes into what? Thin wires. That phenomenon is called as what? Ductility of a material. So those materials get converted into thin wires by pulling action, by tensile action. That phenomenon is called as what? Ductility. Okay, so the ability of material which can drawn into a thin wires by tension. Here in malleability by compression, and here in ductility by tension. So under tension action, those material drawn into the thin wires, that is called as ductility. Those material having what? Ductility property. Are you getting, my dear students? So this is what? Ductility. So under ductility we get wires, and under malleability we will get thin sheets from the material. Okay, but without failure. So we getting these thin wires. Without failure, without crack. Okay, so without failure we'll getting thin wires from this material. That is what? Ductility. Under a pulling action, under a tension action. Okay, so this is what, my dear students? Ductility. So what is ductility? Ductility is nothing but ability of material which can drawn into a wires by tension action, by pulling action. You know this is what? Die. Okay, so this is what? Malleability and ductility. Let's take revision again. What is malleability? Malleability means it is the ability of material which can drawn into a thin sheets due to compression process. See, we took one best example. Now what is ductility? Ductility is nothing but the ability of material which can drawn into a thin wires by tension action. See, this is a pulling force. Okay, so this is what malleability and ductility. In malleability we will getting thin sheet, in ductility we will getting what? Wires. So those material converted into thin sheets under compression process, that is called as malleability property. And those materials get converted into what? Thin wires by tension action, by pulling action. That material has got what? Ductility property. Okay. So these are the what? Some mechanical properties in today's lecture. Okay, so in next lecture we'll see next properties. Stay safe, stay home. Thank you very much.